Hey, good morning. I just got done moving cows, and so I just wanted to talk a little bit about the calves and what they are and why we're doing it. I've discussed that before, but it's time to do it again because there's a purpose. Our goal is to have every female on this ranch at least 50% Mashona. Now, that's not going to be completely attainable because we're going to always have a Mashona herd in case we need to infuse more Mashona in them. You know, the reason we feel like the Mashona are so important is because of what they bring to the table. We feel like the African non-improved genetics. In other words, they've been managed for thousands probably of years to function on grass, on forage, on what they had in nature to survive. And so if they didn't do that, they got culled. And they're still like that for the most part. You're gonna find some that are probably supplemented a little bit with some other things because they're starting to be Americanized. That's all the more reason we need to have our own Mashona herd, because we'll be raising them like we raise our commercial herd, which is going to be our Mashona Angus cross. We feel like that's a much better way for us to manage our America herd, which America's herd years ago, maybe back in the 20s, 30s, something like that, we got them kind of over to where they were finishing on corn or on grain. And so that became a variable in your cows. They needed to function well on grain. And so for years on this ranch, I've been selecting cows and bulls out of my cows and bulls, which were Angus based when we started. And I've been selecting the ones that function in our management, which is without grain. Now we've got to the point where we're wanting to infuse the Mashona in them, and that's just going to bring another factor to the table that should make them very efficient and very successful and hopefully very productive. You know, the difficult part about this goal of having Mashona percentage cattle in every female on the ranch is it's going to take time. It can't just happen overnight. If you could go buy them, you could go buy them, but I don't think that's the best solution to go buy your females, unless you're managing exactly like the person that you're getting them from. And I can guarantee you're not. Unless you're managing the cattle on their place, the way they do it exactly, you're not. And so you're not going to be able to manage them on their place. So by the time you keep heifers out of your herd and get to the point where you're ready to infuse the Mashona, it just takes some time. And that's where we are. We've been selecting out of our herd for 8 years, I believe. Time flies. I lost a couple of years when all that lockdown junk was going on. And so it's probably been 10. But it just takes a while to do it. But we're almost there. We're getting closer. You know, there's also many variables involved with ranching, as you well know. You know, just, one to think of right off the bat is weather. You know, we can't control the weather, so it's different every year. So even though you're selecting, you're still going to have some other variables that apply and that impact your selection. So put that all together with selecting and time and things like that. It's just going to take some time. Like I said, it just takes time. But that's the fun part sometimes, is you kind of get to really know your animals and have an idea of maybe what they should look like on your place in order to function well. So that'll help you in the long run. Now, if for some reason we can't achieve this goal, 50% or a percentage Mashona in all of our females, then we'll just have to continue functioning like we've been functioning for 15, 16 years. And it's worked. It's just that we feel like because we're utilizing cattle that have for so long have been built around grain and that kind of thing, we just feel like we've been putting a square peg in a round hole, or trying to put a square peg in a round hole. And we've gotten a little bit done on that, a little bit figured out, and I feel like we've started kind of rounding off the corners, which is great. If you were going to do this, like I was saying, I think you want to do it with your own animals, and you'll get them to a point where they're starting to do better as far as functioning with, for us, it was on 100% forage. So it can be done. But just like any business, you're always looking for a way to improve, looking for a way to be more productive but sustainable. So that's where we are, and that's what we're trying to do. We really, really feel like that Mashonas are the missing link in our operation. So, like I said, we're excited about it. You can see the cows. It's time for them to start in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We're going to be turning the bulls in. And so it's time for them to start cycling, and some have already started cycling. Now, there's more than a few animals in here that already have Mashona blood in them. And the one that I saw, actually I saw several that were cycling, but I don't think, they didn't appear to have Mashona blood in them. You can kind of pick the Mashona blood out because they'll be real shiny. They have a oil to their coat, such that when we were AIing Mashonas, and we still do that some, normally you put a little sticker on their rear in order to tell when they're coming in or when they're riding. The stickers wouldn't stay, no matter what you do. You put glue on them, use the sticky stuff on the back, 3M, they just slide right off. It's because they have oil on them. So you can tell when you see kind of a Mashona cross, they're really shiny. I mean, it looks like you're preparing them for a show. It's funny, but anyway, that's a good way to tell. Now, the key to this whole thing for us is being able to have the Mashona bulls to cross with the cows. And that's where my folks came in, because they have a significant number of Mashonas. We're starting to build a number of Mashonas. That's for us, and that's for people that want them in the future. If we've got extra, that's great. Like I said, for our management, they're ideal. For everybody's management, they're not going to be. But for the way we manage, they are. So without them, we're not going to be able to achieve the goal, obviously. And then we're not going to be able to achieve the improvement, we don't think. So what we did was we managed our existing herd for years, specifically for about 8-9 years, the way we wanted to manage, and then the cream rose to the top. And those are the ones we pull bulls out of. Those are the bulls that we in turn used on our herd. And as Ian Mitchell Ennis says, who is a consultant for us, he started turning the genetic tap with our cattle. And so we've slowly got them to the position where we were ready to introduce the Mashona. So that's the way really anybody should do it. Doesn't matter how you're raising them. Doesn't matter if you've got them in a pen and you're feeding them everything they eat. You're going to have some that are going to perform really well the way you're managing. And that's what you should start with. Then if you want to infuse some type of African breed that hasn't been improved, that's the time to do it once you get to that point. Here are the red tag heifers from last year. If you've been watching the videos, you've already seen them once. They're just a little bit older now. And these are all Mashona, 50%, and then our cows, 50%, which is going to be mostly Angus base. So this is what we're after on the female side. And I'm sitting here looking at these, and I love them. I love them. I love their looks. But it's all about performance. But there's no reason they shouldn't perform in our management. So we're excited about it. This year during the breeding season, like we've told you before, this is going to be Elvis and the Three Musketeers on these babies. The Three Musketeers we selected out of our herd. They're also 50% Mashona, 50% our herd, Angus. So those will be great. And then, of course, Elvis, he's a star. So I'm hoping he breeds the bulk of them. However, I would like to have a nice mix in there of our genetics. So I'm sure we'll get that. The Mashona bulls, you've seen them before. We're fixing to be putting them out on the big herd to get another, hopefully, set of heifers like this. And that's going to get us 1 year closer to reaching our goals. Here's some footage of the Mashona bulls just to give you an idea if you don't know what they look like. One of my neighbors who saw them said they look like a hippopotamus. That's a pretty good description for the good ones. Short and wide. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take a look at the African breeds. I'm not just touting Mashona. They're not going to work everywhere in our country and for everybody. But just take a look at them. They have a lot of benefits. So we'll catch you next time.